It was just another quiet evening at a busy restaurant, where waiters rushed between tables, balancing plates and smiles. Among them was a young black waiter, working hard to keep his guests happy. Most customers barely noticed him beyond the usual greetings, but that night, something unexpected happened. A well-dressed foreign customer sat down, speaking softly in German while glancing over the menu. To everyone's surprise, the waiter responded fluently in German, his words flowing with ease. The entire table froze for a second, stunned that this ordinary waiter carried such a hidden talent. What no one realized at first was that another man was sitting nearby, quietly watching the scene unfold. He wasn't just another customer, he was a billionaire, someone used to seeing luxury, power, and success. Yet here, in the middle of an ordinary restaurant, he witnessed something that touched him far more deeply than any business deal. The way the waiter carried himself, the respect he showed, and the effortless switch between languages struck a chord. When the meal ended, the billionaire stood up, leaving behind not just a generous tip, but also a mysterious ticket and a handwritten note. What the waiter discovered next would completely change his life forever. The waiter stood still for a moment, staring at the folded note and the ticket resting neatly under the empty glass. At first he thought it was just an unusually generous tip, but when he opened it, the handwriting caught his eye. The message was short, written in clean strokes, and signed with nothing but initials. The ticket itself wasn't for a concert or a train, it looked far more official, something connected to an invitation. His hands trembled as he slipped it into his pocket, unsure whether to tell anyone or keep it to himself. All night, his mind kept going back to that moment when he spoke German without hesitation. It wasn't something he often shared, a skill he picked up after years of studying abroad before returning home. To most people in the restaurant, he was just another face serving meals, but to the billionaire, it seemed that single detail meant something bigger. Questions began to swirl in his mind. Why would a man of such wealth take notice of him? What exactly was this ticket for? And more importantly, what could a few words in German possibly mean to someone so powerful? The waiter couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to take an unexpected turn. The next morning, the waiter woke up earlier than usual, unable to stop thinking about the mysterious ticket and note. He pulled them out of his jacket pocket again, tracing the edges carefully as if they might reveal a secret on their own. The ticket was embossed with a seal he didn't recognize, but the initials on the note kept haunting him. He tried to recall if he had seen them in the news, maybe linked to one of those powerful business names that never seemed real in everyday life. But here it was, sitting in his hands, tied somehow to his future. At work, he struggled to focus. Every plate he carried felt heavier, and every order he took seemed distant compared to the questions racing in his mind. A coworker noticed his distraction and joked that he looked like he'd won the lottery. He smiled faintly but said nothing, guarding the secret close. Deep down, he worried it might be a mistake, or worse, some kind of test he wasn't ready for. Meanwhile, across town, the billionaire was making calls. He had seen potential in people before, but something about this waiter stood out differently. It wasn't just the German, it was the humility, the patience, the hidden story waiting to unfold. What he planned next could either open doors or test the waiter in ways he never imagined. Days passed, and the waiter finally decided to examine the ticket more closely. It wasn't just a pass, it was an invitation to a private gathering at one of the city's most exclusive hotels. The date was approaching fast, and the thought of walking into a room filled with people far above his world made his chest tighten. He kept asking himself why a billionaire, someone with access to the most powerful circles, would choose him of all people. On the evening of the event, he stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the only suit he owned. It wasn't new, but it carried memories of milestones he had worked hard to reach. With the note tucked safely in his pocket, he headed toward the Grand Hotel, each step echoing with uncertainty. The city lights shimmered around him, but inside, his mind was clouded with doubt and anticipation. As he entered the hotel, security guided him past the long line of guests. People turned their heads, curious about who he was and why he carried such a pass. His heart pounded louder with every step, and just as he reached the golden doors of the main hall, he spotted the billionaire waiting for him, eyes fixed with purpose. The moment of truth was seconds away. The waiter froze as the billionaire extended his hand, greeting him with a warm smile that felt both welcoming and intimidating. Before he could process the moment, another man appeared at the billionaire's seat, a sharply dressed figure with the same initials as on the note. The realization hit him hard. The billionaire wasn't the one who wrote the message. Someone else had been pulling the strings, and now both men were watching him closely, as if waiting to see what he would do. Inside the hall, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations hushed as the trio walked in, eyes following the waiter as though he were more than just a Gestamos, like he was part of something bigger unfolding. Whispers spread quickly, some guests recognizing the billionaire, others speculating about the unknown young man at his side. The waiter felt the weight of their curiosity, his palms damp as he held the note tighter in his pocket. Then came the shock. The second man leaned in, and in fluent German, addressed the waiter directly. His words weren't casual greetings, they sounded like instructions, almost a challenge. The waiter's heart raced. This wasn't about luck or kindness anymore. It was clear he had been chosen for something far greater, and the real test was only beginning. The waiter's breath caught. As the man's German words echoed in his ears, everyone around seemed unaware of the tension, but to him, it felt like the entire room was holding its breath. The billionaire finally spoke, breaking the silence. He explained that the invitation wasn't about a meal or a tip, it was a test. They had been watching for someone who could carry themselves with humility, intelligence, and courage, even when unnoticed. The German reply at the restaurant had simply revealed a hidden layer of who he was. The waiter listened, stunned, as the billionaire revealed the truth. The man with the initials was not just a business partner, but a cultural diplomat, seeking someone who could bridge worlds, someone who understood that respect mattered as much as language. The ticket wasn't for a party, it was a gateway to a new opportunity, a role that could take him far beyond the restaurant walls. Relief and disbelief washed over him. Yet before he could thank them, the final twist landed. The diplomat leaned closer, smiling faintly, and whispered, "You weren't the only one we invited tonight." The waiter turned, and across the hall he spotted another figure, watching him intently, someone who looked just as prepared, just as chosen. The true challenge had only begun. The waiter's chest tightened as he saw the other candidate across the hall. For a moment, doubt tried to creep in again, but then he remembered why he had been noticed in the first place. It wasn't about perfection, or wealth, or even luck. It was about authenticity, about showing respect and carrying humility, no matter the setting. With that thought steadying him, he turned back to face the billionaire and the diplomat. Ready to listen, ready to learn. The evening unfolded not as a competition, but as a conversation. Both men invited him to share his story, how he had worked long shifts while studying, how he learned German through late nights and borrowed books, how he never wanted to forget where he came from. By the end of the night, the waiter realized the opportunity was not about replacing who he was, but about expanding what he could become. As he stepped out of the Grand Hotel, the city lights seemed brighter. The ticket and note had led him into a world he never imagined, but the real gift was the reminder that hidden talents can open unexpected doors. His life as a waiter had taught him patience. Now it had led him to possibility. And with that, a new chapter quietly began.